Hi, welcome back to another video. And today I'll be talking about Roy Cooper, who has announced his Senate candidacy for the 2026 North Carolina Senate race that is happening to replace Tom Tillis, who has declined to run for re-election. Now, Roy Cooper is, the person who I talked about in my previous video. He is the former governor of North Carolina, and he is probably, without a doubt, honestly, the strongest candidate the Democrats can put up in the 2026 election cycle for North Carolina. He has won two governor races. He is a very popular, person, not just with the Democrats, but also with the people of North Carolina, where they voted for him twice. They put him in office and then they kept him in office. So Roy Cooper is the strongest candidate the Democrats, can find. And already the Democrats are already unifying um, over the candidacy of Roy Cooper, where for the Republicans have still struggled to find a candidate, to replace John Tillis, to run to defeat Roy Cooper. So until we have quite an idea on who it is Roy Cooper is going to go up against, we're still not sure. However, the only person who has, looks like, he will be able to combat, Roy Cooper here, the Democratic primary here. Um, I don't know if they have the candidates here. It's the Republican primary. The only candidate they've had so far. Yeah, I don't think they have the candidates for the 2000. I swear they did. I don't know if they removed it. But what I was saying is the only candidate that would be able to obviously combat Roy Cooper here would have been the Republican National Committee Chairman Michael Wheatley. I don't know why they don't have the candidate list here, unless I'm going too fast, um, and I just don't see it. That's the Democratic primary. I don't know why they don't have it now. Um, anyway, the Republican National Committee Chairman Michael Wheatley was going to, or has already, thrown his hat in the ring against Roy Cooper. So the election probably just being Roy Cooper against Michael Wheatley, unless Republicans, unless there's more Republicans that try to throw their hat in the ring. So far we have, obviously, um, we have Don Brown, we have, Michael Wheatley, who is okay, announcement pending. He hasn't thrown his hat in the ring. So it's possible that Michael Wheatley enters, wins the Republican nomination easily, and then faces off against John Cooper, because as of right now, I think there really isn't any challenge for John Cooper. Or, sorry, Roy Cooper. I'm getting the names messed up. As of right now, there really isn't much challenge. Okay, so the only filed paperwork is Robert Cullen, and that's not really much. Name recognition potentials, public express interest, withdrawn, declined. So yeah, Roy Cooper really doesn't have much of a challenge here. On the Republican primary, there's going to be a couple more candidates. Obviously, Tom Tillis has withdrawn. We have potentials, we have expressed interest, and Michael Wheatley's announcement is pending. Filed paperwork for two candidates, and we already have another candidate, Don Brown, who's already in, but still, two of these other candidates who are about to, announce soon, along with Michael Wheatley, don't have the name recognition Wheatley has, who is literally the chair of the Republican National Committee. So his announcement is expected by August 3rd. We can expect that by August 3rd. So obviously not anytime soon, but eventually soon. So, Roy Cooper has announced first, thrown his hat in the ring. And he's probably, as I said in my previous video, he is probably going to be the next senator of North Carolina, because he has a real advantage in North Carolina. He is a popular governor that has won twice on the governor's side in North Carolina. Obviously, we had Stein. So back in 2020, he was able to win re-election by 4 points, where he overperformed his margin back in 2016, where originally Trump was elected, where he only won by less than half of a point. And in 2020, he was able to, improve his margins. And then in 2024, he left office, and Josh Stein was elected governor by an impressive 14, almost 15 points. So Roy Cooper has a very impressive, past performing very well electorally. And it's why Democrats believe that Roy Cooper will be able to, win the Senate race, and why he is the strongest candidate to put up a candidate like Michael Wheatley or anyone else in the Republican field that throws their hat in the ring and wants to run to replace Tom Tillis. And obviously, right, this is a swing district that in 2024 and in 2020, in 2016, every single Democratic nominee, Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, not Donald Trump, Kamala Harris, they all lost to Donald Trump on North Carolina. Every single one of them. Despite the polls in 2016 suggesting Hillary could win it, and 2020 Biden could win it, and in 2024 Harris winning, all of them were unsuccessful. They all lost North Carolina to Donald Trump on the presidential way. Why? Because the voters, or Trump's voters, the people who constantly back him, they only show up in presidential levels. And it's why Democrats do so poor in North Carolina when it comes on to the presidential stage. We saw in 2024 where Trump won it by 3 points. We also saw it in 2020 when Trump won it by a point. And we saw it in 2016 where he won it by 3 points. Now, obviously, right, Donald Trump underperformed in 2020, but then overperformed back again in 2024. Really shows you where those presidential elections were trending. Obviously, 2026 in Trump's favor, 2020 in Biden's favor, and 2024 again in Trump's favor. But yeah, Republicans performed very well on the presidential stage when it comes to North Carolina because the Trump voters show up. But when it's a midterm year, or a governor year, it doesn't go well for the Republicans because the Democrats are energized and they show up and Trump's voters don't. Their mission was already achieved. November 5th, 2024, they got Trump back in the White House. That's all they care about. And I highly doubt, they're going to be showing up to vote. As we saw in 2022, where Democrats were, energized over the abortion issue to come out and vote, and so were Republicans, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. The people that showed up for Donald Trump, even though they lost, they didn't show up in 2022 midterms, but they showed up in the 2024 presidential election. And it's why you saw the Democrats lose 4 Senate seats in 2024. It's also why you saw the Democrats struggle in the Senate in 2018. But in 2020, Democrats got lucky in the Senate. In 2018, right, the Democrats took back the House, despite performing very poorly in the Senate, but still. The point here is that Trump's base shows up on presidential election years, which is why 2 out of the 3 that Donald Trump has been in, he has won. In 2020 was, a year, obviously, that did not perform very well for Donald Trump because he was the incumbent president. There were multiple crises he was facing, and the voters blamed him, and they voted him out of office. But in 2016, 2024, Donald Trump was a challenger, and he was able to rival his base both times to come out and vote and support him and send him into the White House. And it worked both times. And when Donald Trump is on the ballot, Republicans are able to perform well. And it's why on this Senate election, I think that Republicans are going to perform very poorly, and I think that Roy Cooper is going to be able to win this Senate race. Now, there have been previous Senate races where the Republicans have been able to perform very well, like in 2022. But this is very different. The incumbent Republican senator is not running for re-election. This is going to be an open Senate race on both sides, and the Democrats have thrown up their strongest candidate. The Republicans are going to probably, I assume, are going to be throwing up Michael Wheatley. If it backfires and the Wheatley campaign doesn't work and, another candidate comes up, I'll be surprised. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's also very possible. Somebody could come out from the dark shadows and whatever. You get the point. As of right now, I do expect Roy Cooper to, surge and win this Senate election. Well, not easily, but around 3 to 5 points. I think 3 to 5 points is reasonable, and I expect Roy Cooper to perform very well. He won his first governor election by under half a point, and then he won his re-election governor campaign by just 3 to 4 points. So I think 3 to 5 points, somewhere in that range, seems very reasonable, when we look back at his history in performing in election. And I think we can expect, in November, a Roy Cooper victory. But, we still have other candidates to announce. We still have more on the Republican side, maybe some of the Democratic side. There were rumors that some of the Democratic candidates were going to drop out once Roy Cooper announced, and Roy Cooper has already announced this morning. So we will see if that happens. I'll update you guys if that does happen. But until then, we are still waiting for more candidates to, announce or drop out. Still, that hasn't happened. But until then, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please like and subscribe, and I will see you all in next video.